They say a civilization is built on its words, on the precision of its laws, the clarity of its science, the poetry of its sagas, the resonance of its songs. Words are the foundation, the very glue of understanding. But what happens, they say, when the words themselves become hollow? When the silence that falls isn't the absence of sound, but the void of meaning? The luminous spires of Ethel, a vast, living communication relay station woven from bioluminescent crystalline growth, hummed with the symphony of interstellar communication. A million species, a billion dialects, flowed through its immense conduits. Envoy Serafina Vane, human, known for her subtle negotiation style, stood in the central nexus, observing the vibrant exchange. Beside her, Watch Commander Jayek, head of human security, monitored the data streams, a man who preferred direct, unambiguous orders. Suddenly, the hum fractured. An Ethelian diplomat, his multifaceted eyes wide with alarm, began to stammer, his intricate chitters warping into garbled, nonsensical bursts. His elegant gestures, usually conveying precise legal arguments, became frantic, desperate flailings. Across the central plaza, holographic displays flickered and corrupted, showing scenes without context. A war fleet engaged in a joyous dance, a culinary demonstration turning into a philosophical debate. The air filled not with noise, but with a profound, unsettling quiet, the quiet of meaning dissolving. This was not a jamming signal, it was the great unmaking. Jayek instinctively reached for his comm, but his security chief's voice was a mangled string of syllables. "Man. Unit. Not. Clear. Noise," he broke off, pointing frantically at a flickering data display that showed an orbital defense grid firing randomly into the void. Envoy Vane felt a sickening sensation, not of pain, but of conceptual drift. Her own thoughts seemed to fragment, her carefully constructed arguments turning into a jumble of disconnected words. The world around her, still physically present, had become linguistically alien. What was this thing? What had it done? And how could you fight a void of meaning? The great unmaking was not an entity nor a weapon of war. It was a colossal cosmic anomaly, a non-Euclidean wrinkle in spacetime that warped the very fabric of conscious communication. It didn't destroy information. It distorted the act of encoding and decoding complex meaning. It systematically broke down linguistic structures, telepathic bonds, and even pure data logic into incomprehensible noise or empty, repetitive patterns. Its influence wasn't malicious. It was merely a filter, and the filter stripped away anything that relied on precise, explicit meaning. Other species, utterly reliant on such precision, quickly succumbed. The Chronosians, whose entire society ran on ultra-precise mathematical languages and complex data streams, found their logical processes reduced to gibberish. Their meticulously calculated plans for survival became meaningless commands. Their great thinkers descended into catatonia, their logic circuits unable to parse anything coherent. The Solarians, a communal species whose entire culture was telepathically shared, suffered mass mental breakdowns. Their shared consciousness became a horrifying jumble of random, disconnected thoughts and fragments of emotion, driving them into a state of shared madness and paralysis. Their greatest strength, their telepathic unity, became the conduit for their undoing. Even the Illumii, who communicated through intricate light patterns that conveyed vast swathes of harmonic information, saw their elegant dances of meaning become meaningless flickers, their collective wisdom dissolving into chaotic light shows. Their reliance on explicit light-encoded communication became their ultimate vulnerability. Each species, in its core method of interaction, offered the great unmaking a pathway to its own collapse. And now it was spreading towards human space. Humans initially struggled just like the others. Their languages devolved into disjointed words, their digital networks into random noise. Confusion, then panic, gripped their worlds. But then something different emerged. While their words fragmented, humanity's deep-seated capacity for inferring meaning, reading body language, and connecting through shared experience, humor, and raw empathy kicked in. A human might not understand the word's propulsion system, but seeing a panicked engineer pointing at an overheating panel, and another human offering a hand, they grasped the intent and shared urgency. A security operative wouldn't understand the complex orders for a tactical maneuver, but a knowing glance, a shared grunt of frustration, or a quick, improvisational gesture of "follow me" could convey the immediate necessity. Humanity's strength was its messiness, its reliance on context, intuition, and nonverbal cues. They communicated through shared laughter that transcended language, a knowing glance that spoke volumes, a comforting touch that conveyed solace, a frustrated sigh that expressed a universal irritation. They found meaning in the unspoken, in the imperfect. They could still understand each other, and crucially, they could still understand the desperate, fragmented intentions of other bewildered aliens. Envy Vane, watching this strange resilience unfold, realized their unique ability. They could become the galaxy's interpreters or bridges, not by transmitting complex messages, but by conveying intent, emotion, and implied meaning through purely nonverbal, contextual human interactions. They began to establish human zones, where communication was restored through shared experience, gesture, and raw empathy, acting as living translators of intent across the fragmented galaxy. The Lumina Spires, once a beacon of explicit communication, would now be the heart of the unspoken. Back at the Lumina Spires, the great unmaking's influence was absolute. Galactic civilization was on the brink of collapse due to miscommunication and breakdown of order. A massive conflict was about to erupt between two highly armed alien factions, the militaristic Karka and the mercantile Xyloth, who, unable to understand peace treaties or threats, were poised for mutual destruction. Humanity's counter, Env, Vane, and Watch Commander Jayek led teams of humans into the heart of the brewing conflict. They didn't speak. Their words would be meaningless anyway. Instead, they used gestures, facial expressions, shared emotional responses, leading by example. They physically placed themselves between the factions, conveying intent, peace, stop, understand not through words, but through their raw, undeniable human desire for connection and problem-solving, even when illogical. They mimicked the fragmented, non-verbal cues of the Karka and Xyloth themselves, then recontextualized them with human empathy. A human would mirror a Karka's frustrated stomp, then offer a calm, open hand. They would reflect a Xyloth's worried fidgeting, then offer a reassuring nod. The great unmaking reacted. It tried to fragment this. But how do you distort a shared glance, a comforting hand on a shoulder, a universal gesture of peace, a primal grunt of warning that bypassed all linguistic structure? It could not distort what was never explicitly encoded. It could not break down something that communicated between its intended targets in the space of shared experience. The great unmaking didn't break or scream. It simply receded, finding no explicit meaning to distort. It was a phenomenon that filtered, and humanity's communication was simply outside its filter. It moved on, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed, still struggling with fragmented explicit communication. The immediate conflict on the Lumina Spires de-escalated. The Karka and Xyloth factions, still unable to speak, understood the intent of the human intervention. The subtle language of shared purpose, conveyed through a human touch, a determined gaze, a simple, empathetic presence had reached them. humanity emerged as the galaxy's reluctant interpreters of silence, the bridge builders of the unspoken. They gained immense, unique influence and trust, becoming mediators and navigators through the fractured galaxy. They were the only ones who could truly hear the galaxy's confusion and convey core meanings. They formed entire new diplomatic corps, dedicated to this new form of silent, empathetic understanding. However, this unique gift came with a quiet burden. Humanity carried the immense weight of understanding the galaxy's chaos and sorrow, without being able to fix it with simple words. They found themselves subtly isolated by their unique gift, unable to truly connect on a purely linguistic level with other species as they once did. Their own language began to evolve, relying more heavily on nonverbal cues, making them, in a way, alien to their own past selves. They bore the quiet weight of being the galaxy's last, quiet bridge, forever translating the unspoken. Envy Vane and Watch Commander Jayek stood together amidst the still fragmented galactic communications. Vane offered a small, knowing smile, a testament to their quiet victory. Jayek, for his part, simply nodded, a clear, unspoken acknowledgement of their new, profound purpose. The universe was still largely silent, but it was no longer meaningless.